My name is Doug Smith at willspy Investigations in Costa Rica. For many years now, people have asked me to write a book or short stories or something about many cases that we've been involved in Costa Rica. Unfortunately, I've only got 3 fingers that work well in my right hand. So I've been asked to go ahead and put together a few videos. The first one I'm going to tell you about is the case of the personal protection order and the prostitute. It started out as just a telephone call from a young lady that said she needed help. Over the phone, she said that there was another young lady that had been keying her car and painting the front of her house. I invited her over and explained to her over the telephone that no matter what the circumstances are, we are not going to strong arm anybody. That's not what a real PI does. But she showed up a few hours later and came into my house and we went to the office. She told me the story about a young lady that had keyed her car 3 or 4 times, painted nasty words across the front of her house and the wall across the front of her house. And it was a sad story, as most of them are. And I explained to her, I said, have you called the police? She answered yes many times. And I said, what have you done? She says, well, I filed a denuncio, which is an order in Latin America, but I can't get it served on the girl. And I said, why? It's the job of the police here in Latin America to serve these orders. And she explained that the girl uses 3 or 4 addresses and the police will not serve her at her place of employment. And so I had to ask, well, what is her place of employment? Well, she works at Del Rey in Costa Rica, and it's a well-known place where prostitutes work. And so at that point, I had to ask, at the same time explaining that we don't work for free, and what is your job? And she explained, quite frankly, she says, I'm a prostitute. And she said, I get paid big money for it. And she said, I've been working with this girl for quite a few years doing bisexual sex shows for men. But now I've quit. I've got a full-time American boyfriend. I don't want to do this anymore. And this girl is pissed off at me because she is not going to make the $300 or $400 for these girl-on-girl sex shows. She presented me with the paperwork, it was all in Spanish, of course, that she needed to have served on the young lady at the Del Rey in Costa Rica. I told her, I says, well, do it if it's legal. I quoted her a price, and I told her, I said, I need to check with our counsel, our attorney, and if Anna approves it, we'll take the case. Simple serving papers on someone. Every PI, every process server has done it 100 times. We do it for U.S. people 15, 20 times a month. It's no big deal. So she left, and I immediately called our attorney and told her what I had. Anna said, come to the office. So I drove over to Anna's office and laid all the paperwork in front of her and asked her, number one, can we legally serve this girl? Anna says, yeah. I said, okay, point out what we need to serve, point out where I need to sign, and tell me exactly what I can do and what I can't do. She said, you lay the paperwork on her, explain that it's a personal protection order, Ask her if she can speak English or Spanish. And after you do it, bring it back to me. And I'll put my notary on it, and it's done. So that same afternoon, the client had given me photographs of the young lady, and she had given me all the various aliases that the young lady uses. So I drove into the Del Rey, met with a couple guys that are on my payroll. I have everyone paid off in Costa Rica that works at every house of prostitution, bordello, any place that any working girl or gringos go. I've got 3 or 4 people on the payroll. And I met one of the guys and showed him her photograph. He explained to me, yes, the girl works there quite often. And I told him, I says, I'll give you $20 if you give me a call next time she shows up. This would have been, I want to say, about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, maybe 6. Not relevant. No sooner did I drive away from the Del Rey, I got a telephone call from the guy. And he says, Doug, the girl's here. Come do what you got to do. So I called one of my guys that works for Oihota, that speaks perfect English and Spanish, and I wanted a witness. Because these working girls in Costa Rica, they know every law there is, and I wanted someone right there with me. Told him I'd give him $20 for 10 minutes of work, and he met me at the Del Rey. The guy that works there pointed her out to me. She had changed her hair color, as they do. And I walked up to her and I said, you are so-and-so? And she said, no. She said, I'm XYZ. And I smiled and I said, no. I said, this is your photograph. I said, we need to talk, please. So with a chagrin, I took her over to the restaurant part of the Del Rey. It's well lit, there's video cameras everywhere. I didn't want there to be any confusion at all. So she, another working girl that apparently she teamed up with, my guy from Oihota, we sat right out in the open. I pulled the paperwork out of my backpack and I slid this to her. And she said, what's this in English? Right off the bat, I asked her, I said, tu hablas español, tu habla inglés, even though she had already been speaking English. Well, she tried to, that fast, say that she didn't understand any English at all. So I just said, bien. I said, here's the papers. You can read. Please follow what the paperwork says. And I said, you have a good day. I got up, walked away, and I could see that she was steaming, just steaming, stomping her little feet on the floor. I paid off my guy from Oihota. He went one direction, I went another direction, because it was like a 1-year anniversary of a local bar that serves the best burgers in San Jose, Costa Rica. So I split down there, saw my friends, and it wasn't about 10 minutes later, the police came in through the front door. And the girl was standing behind them. They pointed at me and they came in and grabbed me by the arm and they told me in Spanish, you're in big trouble. I smiled and I said, ¿por qué? Why? He said, you get in the back end of that truck. So the first thing they did was they took my cell phone from me so I couldn't call the attorney, try to get any help or an explanation. They put me in the back end of this paddy wagon and bounced me around all the back streets of San Jose for about an hour and a half or 2 hours. Took me into this little satellite police station in downtown San Jose. Set my ass down in a chair, got up my face a little bit at first, and I just smiled because I knew I hadn't done anything wrong. And I also knew I didn't want to give them a reason to think that I had done anything wrong. The prostitute walks in with 3 or 4 police officers. They go into a back office. Front door was open on the police station with bars on it. And I just sat back and smiled and didn't say a word. About every 5 minutes, one of the cops would come out, slap me upside the head, point his finger and explain to me, "You're going to jail. You're a bad man. You did a bad thing." I smiled and I said, "I didn't do anything wrong." I showed him the paperwork that I still had from my return of service. He looked at it. He said, "No, you're a bad man." So 15 minutes, a half hour went by. The prostitute walks out of the one office with 2 or 3 officers and into another office, and another cop comes by and slaps me in the head. And I smiled and I said, "Okay, I don't know why you're doing this." And it was obviously an attempt to get me to react or intimidation or something. And after about 3 or 4 times of slapping me in the head, one little punch in the head, it wasn't that bad, I'm not going to exaggerate. No blood, little mouse, no big deal. She came out of the office and into another office with 2 or 3 other officers. And the whole time this is going on, I'm looking through the barred doors, and there's this tall, lanky kid, 6 foot tall, blonde hair, maybe 170 pounds, like a beanpole. He's walking back and forth in front of the door, shaking his finger and calling me names in Spanish. And the Spanish was so fast, I got the swear words, but I didn't know what the hell he was doing, okay? And really didn't care. I was more concerned about the police and what I know they can do if they want to do in Central America. So after sitting there about 3 hours, they finally came up and gave me my passport back, gave me my cell phone back, and said, "Well, you can go." I said, "Okay. You want me to sign anything? Is there anything I can do? Do you have any questions for me?" "Nope. You just go." I said, "Okay." So with my backpack over my shoulders and my return of service in my backpack. And at that time I had glasses. They gave me my glasses back so I could see a little better. I walked out the front door, and this kid that had been hollering, screaming, jumping up and down, he started to charge at me. He might have been 20 meters away. And there was one of these little kiosk phone booths out there that hang on a pole. And I looked through the barred doors, and the 3 or 4 police were standing there just watching this go on. And the kid kept on aggressive. He wasn't running, aggressively walking, I guess, at me. I took my glasses off, laid them on top of the phone, and I looked over my shoulder again at the police, and I pointed at the kid that was coming at me, and I said, "Hey," I said, "Este problemos. It's a problem." The kid got from here to about 1 meter away from me. Before he was coming at me with a haymaker. I didn't have any choice. It was dark. There was one street light. The police obviously weren't going to do anything to this Tico, Costa Rican young man. And I pulled back and just dusted him, just dropped him like a bag of dirt. And the police never moved. I was waiting for them to come charging outside and put me in handcuffs and take me away. The kid dropped. I grabbed my glasses, and just so happened a taxi came by. I got my fat gringo ass in the back of this taxi and told him to take me back to the car. I got back to the house, went to sleep, called Anna the next morning, and I said, I need to have you notarize these papers so I can get them back to the client. She said, okay. I didn't say anything to her about what happened the previous night. I walked in there and she saw the little mouse and a couple little bruise marks there on the side of my head. She asked me what happened. And I told her I'd always been honest with her. She said, we can file denuncia. And I said, no. It's no big deal. I'm going to make my money. Everyone got paid. Let's let this go. It's done. I signed. She notarized. I called the client. I said, here's your papers. Thank you very much. She paid me the rest of the fee. She asked me what happened. I told her. Case closed. I made $300 or $400 after all my expenses. Client's happy. Everyone's happy. The worst I got out of it was a little mouse above the eye, a couple little black and blue marks the side of my cheek. Goes with the territory. It's Central America. So I'll be a son of a buck. About a month later, I get a telephone call in Spanish that they've got some papers for me. Someone's got some papers they want to serve on me. And at the same time, Anna, because she's my attorney of record, apparently had gotten the same phone call. And I had authorized her years earlier that she could accept any papers, handle it. I don't understand what's going on. My corporate stuff's filed. It's no big deal. Do what you got to do. So Anna accepts the papers, and she calls me, and she says, come on into the office. Okay, fine, no big deal. I knew I hadn't done anything wrong. So I get in there, and this is where it gets cute. The young lady that I had served was suing me for $600 or $800, but there was no explanation why she was suing me. I told Anna they had a preliminary date set up for a preliminary hearing, just like they do in the United States. And Anna, I called my guy that was there when I served her from Oihota, and Anna brought in another attorney that specializes in this, and we get into the preliminary hearing. And it was an in-camera session, and for those of you that don't know what that is, that's back in a judge's chambers. And the prostitute, the young lady, she had her attorney, and I sat there like a church mouse. And I had taken all my background, everything. And Anna had all my corporate documents, and I sat back like a church mouse, and I let this attorney go at it in Spanish at 200 miles an hour, and I understood about half of what he was saying. And I looked at Anna, and I'm smiling at the judge. It was a female judge, very pleasant lady. And after it was all over with, I said, Anna, you want to explain to me what's going on? And the judge interrupted. She said, yes, Mr. Smith. She said, the young lady is suing you for loss of income because when you served her these legal papers, you scared her so much she couldn't have sex that night. And so she wants you to pay her $600 or $800 for the loss of income that she could have made that night, having sex with people. And I smiled and I just explained to the judge, I said, it's my job. I said, here's a copy of what we served her. I said, I didn't say anything. I said, there's video cameras at the Del Rey, and I have somebody here that works for you from OE Hotel. I said, I might have said 3 words because the young lady lied to me and said that she couldn't speak English. Immediately, her attorney jumped in and he wanted to say something that he couldn't understand English and that we had to do this whole thing in Spanish. Well, this judge was super cool. And she explained to this attorney that it was her office, that she could determine what language we were going to speak, and the case was dismissed. She thanked me. She looked at all my paperwork. I was 100% legal. She shook my hand. I wished her well, and we walked out. Anna gave me a peck on the cheek. Young lady gave me a scowl. Her attorney stomped his little Tico feet down the hallway, and I thought it was over. I'll be a son of a bitch. A month later, same paperwork, back to Anna again, but we had the dismissal this time. And I said, Anna, how many times am I going to do this? She just explained that all I have to do is go to XYZ office, present the dismissal, and it will be finally dismissed. So I and a friend of mine went to this office. After standing or sitting in line for 4 hours, they called my number and my name. I went up, laid the court dismissal on them, and it was done. So that was the case of, I served a personal protection order, and I scared a girl so bad that she couldn't have sex. So I hope you folks enjoyed this. I know this is a very rough video, and I apologize for my language. If you have any questions, you can contact me at www.willspy.com. And I'm going to post a few more of these.